welcome back to the ministry. And today I'm continuing off on my point. God will lead you to where you need to be. Now, this is the part that I need for you to really sink your teeth into. Because for some of you, God is about to lead you into a wilderness and then He's going to ask you to do something while you're there. Now remember, I talked about Joseph and Joseph having the tree. If you go and look at, I think it's Joseph in the Dream Coat, Disney's version of the story of Joseph, it shows him catering to a tree. Some of you have gifts, talents, and things that God is trying to harvest within you. And some of y'all want to sit there and do it in the cushiness of the comfort of where you are. And God's saying, hell no. I love you enough to tell you you're not doing it there. I'm about to cultivate you in a place that's going to feel highly uncomfortable for you. And I'm going to need for you to get mentally and emotionally acclimated, because He's about to put you in some places and spaces while He's getting you to go through these processes. Some of you, God been telling you that He wants you to go back to college. There are people that I've listened to over the past few years. They went back to college, but guess what? They were doing it from Airbnb, hotel room to hotel room, and some of them were sleeping in their cars. Went to college, graduated. You know the young woman named Keys to the Kingdom? She just graduated with a PhD. The whole time that she was in Atlanta, she ain't had no place to stay. She was doing it on the faith of God, and she was going from hotel to hotel, and sometimes she was in her car. Hotel, Airbnb, freely traveling. Do you hear what I'm saying? Some of you are going to have to go through your processing of figuring out what it is that God's called you to do, but He's going to put you in places and spaces to even see the thing that you're called to walk in motion. I was in New York City. New York City is the place of acting and media, but guess what? He took me to I went on 2 separate occasions to this place called Made in New York. Made in New York, they show you how and what processes of what it looks like to work as a production assistant for productions. And you will get the opportunity to work the back lots. You will have the ability to do all this, but they will tell you the process of all this kind of stuff in order to be in the creative fields in New York. And you're going to have call times that are like 4 o'clock in the morning and all kinds of stuff. Did I end up working in that? Actually, no, because you know why? I had the restriction of I didn't have a car. And they didn't want to work with people that operate on a subway or bicycling. So now you got some folks, they had bikes. If they didn't have bikes, New York was famous for having New York City bikes. So people would use the New York City bikes, and they would do like Uber Lyft, Uber Eats, Uber grocery store runs. So they would go do private shopping for people, and I forget what they called that, because it was actual grocer or something, and people would do that. And none of them had a car; they just used them bikes. How bad you want it? Some of y'all, God's going to put you through some processes like that, because it's something that you already either doing, or He wants you to go through a processing of. For instance, I've been a creative for a majority of my adult life, so He put me into a season prior to me walking through my season in New York, where He allowed me to have access to business folks, go to business events. I was going to venue events. I was going to fashion shows. I was doing all of this type of stuff. Y'all don't understand. I was out here. I knew the models at the fashion shows that were local, okay? I don't talk about that part of my life. Okay? But with that being said, When God put me into my season of wilderness, I ain't had no access to any of that. But guess what? He allotted me ability. One day he took me over to Chelsea and I was able to go into the YouTube studio. One day he would have me go through random experiences where he would lead me. He led me to a college campus once while I was there. And I allowed him to lead me. Some of y'all gonna have to do some walking experiences and excursions with the Lord, and he gonna lead you some places. Because he's going to lead you to what he needs you to gain the wisdom, the direction to, and what it is he's trying to lead you to. But I need you to seek God now as to what it is that your talents and what you're supposed to put your hands to. Because God's going to lead you to some open doors that ain't going to look like savory doors to open. But guess what? I remember my friend led me to a food kitchen one day, that because we used to always go to the food kitchens where she had it. She knew it. This was my Naomi. She knew it so well. And this place, they actually did a lot of, they started my dental work. They've been trying to come after my teeth for years, okay? My teeth would be right now if it hadn't been for this type of warfare I used to deal with my teeth, okay? But she led me to this place and they did your dental care. And when I tell you, the enemy fought me so hard on getting my first appointment with the dental people. But they also advertised one day there helping people get into culinary. Now, I've always loved food. So me and my friend decided, Naomi, came together and said, we gonna go and do that course together. Now, this is the reason why you need to pay attention and be spiritually aware. I'm gonna come back to the spirit map, and I'll probably end up coming to the end of that. This is why you're gonna need that. I ended up doing culinary. It was a 6-week course and then a 1-week preliminary, meaning it was a 1-week safety and sanitation course that they had us go through. But I ended up getting a from that certification in culinary. Okay. Some of these things, some of you supposed to go to college. Some of you, there's certain certifications, there's certain documentation, there's certain things that God wants you to get, but he can't have everybody seeing what you're doing. God pulled me out of the place that I was staying at and had me get all this documentation because the enemy was after my documents. So he pulled me out and put me in a completely different location where I was secure and safe for 1 month. But he had me get all of the stuff that I didn't have during that time frame. So, with that being said, that there are certain things that God's going to want you to get, and he's going to have you moving all over the place while he's doing it. He had the woman going to college. She was not in a stable location. He had the other person he will do that. I need you to understand he's going to do that to you. And for some of y'all, he's going to do that. Why? Because the enemy can't know where and what you're doing. So he's going to have you in a place that he's going to have you jump. I had to go through 4 weeks of getting documentation, and he had me in a location that I could be up and pulled out of at any particular point in time. Because these folks had messed with my stuff. And he needed to make sure that I was covered. And I remember during certain particular points in time, God would say, I need you to secure your paperwork here. I need you to put this here. I need you to do this here. And I did that. But one day I forgot to do that, and it screwed me up for 1.5 years. It was about 1.5 years that I ended up messed up because I didn't listen for a momentary thought. Secondarily, I ended up in a situation where something was taken from me. Why? God had given me an idea, and my thoughts were racing like 100 miles a minute and I forgot something. Turned around, came back, and God had already warned me. And I realized it after that that's what God was trying to say. That when it went missing the first time, I should have been paying more attention. But the day that he gave me this particular idea, which was a God idea, all hell started going on around me. This is why you got to be aware. When God is speaking to you, you need to calmly sit down, take the idea down that he gave you, and keep an eye on. Because sometimes you're going to have your property with you. You're going to have, keep your eyes, ears alert. Because the enemy is now that the enemy knows that God has given you something, he's going to be trying to do everything to take your attention, take it away from you. That's another warning. Because God's going to be dropping God ideas on you while you're in your wilderness, and he's going to be showing it to you, and you're going to have to go through the processing of preparing what? The tree, Joseph. He's giving you the branches to the tree of your overall promised land idea. He's giving you the education you need. He's giving you the connections you need. I ran into certain people. I was just listening to Sunray the other week, and she was making a point of saying, some of y'all are Josephs, that there were people that met you in that dark season. Because some of y'all are actually coming out of your dark season. Blessed be to Jesus for y'all. You already went to the valley. Blessed to God. You coming out of that for real. Some of you are about to go into a resting season where you're going to actually feel like God's taking stuff away from you, because you're like, oh my God, why is it that I have nothing? I had more in the season that I was going through hell than I had here. And there's a reason for that. God doesn't want you having the money and the this, because guess what? You will invest your time and your money. I saw one of the ministers that I follow. She had this idea. And when she had the idea for something, it was a good idea, but it was a God idea out of season. And she suffered for that. She ended up losing over $5,000, may have been $10,000. In investments in relation to a project that God had given her, because it was out of season. I think she ended up doing that project 2 years later. And when she did it 2 years later, it was in God's timing. So you got to be aware, because sometimes you're going to be in your wilderness season thinking, I need to do this right now because I need to get out of this situation right now. And God's saying, hold your horses, wait. Yes, y'all, I know. God do that. And it's annoying. He be giving you ideas and be like, yo, I need you to do this. And you're like, yeah, I'm going to do it right now. And God's like, wait, you just told me to do it. What do you mean you want me to wait? You got to wait for instructions. And in some cases, the enemy, just like I said that happened to me, I ended up losing some stuff because God gave me the idea, and now the enemy was on the prowl to try to do anything and everything in his power to stop me from being able to accomplish that thing. Blessed be to Jesus, I still got the content to this day. Because the day that he caused all that ruckus, I still went back to where I was supposed to go to and wrote down everything the way that I desired to do it. His intent was to cause confusion, that I didn't ever get to where I was supposed to go, and that I never wrote it down. Devil's a liar, it didn't happen. So you got to be alert that the enemy going to be on the prowl, especially if God's giving you God ideas. And it may be something that you got to hold on to that idea until God says, this is the season I need you to work on it. But he's going to be doing things leading you into those ideas for a year or 2 years leading up to that. So you may be sitting there thinking, I need to go over here, but God's giving you the steps. It's something that I was looking at. It was what's the word, Lord? A chart, a graph or something like that. It was like a meme image. And it talked about how people stack their failures. Some things aren't a failure. It's just you're doing something out of season in the wrong time frame. God gave you the steps to do it, but most people consider those things failures. You ever hear rich people always say that had to hear 1,000 no's before I got the one yes? You need to take those moments and figure out, well, if God's allowing me to have all these no's, there must be something that I need to work on in me, or there's something that he doesn't want those individuals to have their hands on that's important that I need to flesh out right now. And until that thing is fleshed out, I'm not going to be able to have anybody else have access to it. Because God's trying to protect what he poured into you. You understand what I'm saying? So as he's taking you through these seasons, he's going to give you the grace. If you don't come out the other side of your wilderness with a game plan, if you don't come outside of your wilderness, Esther, with the strategy to take down your enemy, what was you doing? Some of you, God's going to give you whole conglomerate business corporations. But y'all too afraid to go into the wilderness where he going to drop you in the midst of nowhere and you got to figure out how to get through. He's going to give you what you need, but in some of those cases, it's not going to look like what you need in immediate. It's going to be the stuff that's going to stack you up. Because see, a lot of business people have the understanding that there's compound interest. And with that compound interest, you're going to go through steps and cycles. And I was listening to a business person yesterday, and I'm going to tie it back to the Bible in 1 second. I was listening to Alex Hormozy, and he was making a point of saying that a lot of us have a tendency that we see all of these failures. It's not that it's a bunch of failures. No. That this was a cycle that you had to go through. How quickly are you going to go through this cycle and realize that the next time I see this cycle, I'm going to make a different choice? The definition of insanity is to do the same thing over and over expecting a different result. It's not that you should expect a different result. You got to change your mindset to do something different in order to get a different result. You see how they work? But a lot of us keep going through the same cycles over and over again, expecting something to change, and don't nothing change because we think that it's supposed to change on its own, that we're not supposed to change. No, God will put you through a season and you be sitting up there like, well, God said I should move. No, he needs you to move here. You need to move your mindset so that you can eventually walk into the thing that you're called to walk into. So that you can stop. The quicker you go through that cycle, the quicker that you come to the realization, oh, I can't repeat the same behavior over again. Because if I keep doing it, I'm going to get the same. So you have to understand that you can't keep rotating and doing the same cycles. What is it that God's calling you to do in this season? And are you following his instructions? Because some of y'all get stuck because you didn't follow the instruction God gave you. And you over here asking God, like, God, why am I still sitting here? God, why am I still sitting in the midst of this foolery? Why is this season not changed for me? Did you take the instruction that he gave you? I'm one that if God gave me an instruction, I got to do it right away. But the problem with me is the opposite. I do the instruction. God be like, well, you did the instruction. Now I need you to rest for a season. And you be like, I don't want to rest. I want to get out of the season. I need this season to change. Change season. And God's like, sit your butt down and rest. And then that's when the enemy come at you even harder. And you be like, but God, you just told me to rest. So why is it that the enemy coming at me harder than he was before? Because you just accomplished something. What you think that this was? The enemy recognized you got extra angels and that you accomplished what God told you to do. So he mad at you. So now he's trying to deprive you of rest, sleep, all of this type of stuff. And yeah, then you're going to have to consecrate again because you got to get the next instruction. Oh, what you think this was? So you're going to have to go through processes after processes and consecrations after consecrations. Some of y'all going to be doing 1 day, 3 day, 7 day, 21 day, 40 day, 60 days. Oh, you thought that I'm new to this. I'm true to this, y'all. In some cases, I just kept on going. Every day was a consecration until God said stop. My neck don't look like this because I think it's cute to have a very thin neck. No! God be putting me through consecration. Because it's in that obedience I get revelation, y'all. And that's going to be your number one, especially if he puts you in a wilderness season. And he going to drop you in the middle of nowhere. But guess what? If God drops you in the desert, God's going to provide the manna that you're going to be able to be taken care of. You just got to take his instructions. He will lead you to the sources of water, sources of food, sources of what it is that you need to sustain you. He'll lead you to networks of people. He'll have you operating with certain situations and certain people for a season. But don't get attached because you're like, I don't want to go through the next phase of the season by myself. God's going to pull you away from certain people because he needs you to separate from them. And because the next phase of the journey, the projects he's about to put into your hand, the revelation he's about to give you, that set of people can't go with you to that next set. See, the problem is we be trying to take everybody from the wilderness with us, and God be like, heck no, I'm going to leave you right there until you let all them folks go. Some of y'all right now trying to take some people that's supposed to be staying in the wilderness into your promised land. Remember, all them old folks had to die off before you went to the promised land. Before the Israelites went to... Them people that were babies when they came out of Egypt were now 20 and 30 somethings. And then God said, now y'all can go. Some of them are 40. Now y'all can go into the promised land. Because y'all parents had to die off. Because they couldn't be accessing this stuff with their own mindsets. That's why y'all had to change your mindsets. And some of y'all going to have to change your mindsets in the wilderness God's taking you into before he can take you into the actual promised land. Don't be the ones that got to stay in the wilderness for 40 years. Some of y'all, it may be 11 a day journey. For some of y'all, it's going to be a year, 2 years, 4 years. God will have that determination because he got to take you through your process. Some of y'all been good and you allowed God to process you up until this point. And that means your processing in your next season ain't going to take that long. Some of y'all 3-month processes. Some of y'all 1 year processes. I pretty much average around about 1 year to 13 months processing season to season. 13, 14 months. Some of y'all gonna have to go through the revelations. Was it Revelations 12? Where you gonna have to go through the 1,260 days of wilderness. Just like the woman, because God's gonna be trying to birth something out of you. And this is a God thing. And because it's a God thing, the enemy, just like the dragon that was standing over the woman that was giving birth, yeah, he gonna want to snatch your life for that. So I'm gonna need for you to recognize me saying pack your bags ain't one of those scenarios. But for my folks, that you're about to come into your marriage season, blessed be to Jesus, you are coming out of your wilderness. But I need you to also be forewarned that your wilderness with your spouse, because some of you going to have to go through a season with your spouse. I remember there was a minister and his wife that told the story of the fact that when they first got married, that God put them in an Abraham season, an Abraham and Sarah season, that they were staying in hotels before they even got their house There's another minister, I forget what her name is. I see her and her husband on my feed all the time. I think it's called Rising Ground Church, if you know them. They just went through a wilderness season. Some of y'all gonna be married and God's gonna be taking you through a season with your spouse. What? What you mean? You're telling me I'm gonna get married and we still gonna be going through this? Yes. For some of you, yes. For some of you, because God's taking them through a certain form of wilderness, y'all not going to end up at the house. God's telling you that's your end, but that doesn't mean that you're going to be there when you first get married. Oh, God's going to put me in the house. He's putting me in the mansion. He's putting me in the lap of luxury. Some of y'all not going to get there right away. Not to say that he's not taking you there, and not that he say that he's not putting you through the process, but understand, coming back to, this was my point, I thank you, Lord, coming back to the spirit mapping. I keep telling y'all, go back to the spirit mapping. Spirit mapping. The reason why I keep telling y'all to go to spirit mapping is this. Go look up the document for spirit mapping. It is about a 13 to 15 questionnaire. Because some of you, the land that you're going into is full of spirits that don't want you to establish your stakes in the ground in that place. Some of you are going to go through a Joseph season where you're going to go in, survey the land, and some of you are doing that with your spouse, but you're not going to be planted because the Lord's not planting y'all yet. Some of you will be going in, but due to the fact that the enemy doesn't want you to secure your position just yet, this is why you got to keep your mouth shut. Because for some of you, there are homes, there are things, there's certain places and placements that he needs for you. Some of y'all going to be going from Airbnb to Airbnb. Some of y'all going to be going from hotel to hotel until God says, I need you. Now you can go home. Some of y'all haven't even gotten a contract yet. I remember the scenario where one of the women that the Lord had leading me at a particular point in time, right at the beginning of the pandemic, God was telling her that she needed to get her house. And he moved her from staying with family. She had to leave out, could not go back. Some of y'all not going to be able to go back when God has you leave. And she could not go back. They even shut down the I-95 in her city so that she could not go back. She had to have her car repaired. Warfare. Then, once she had her car repaired, she had to find an Airbnb that would take her and all of her children, and they were taking temperatures at the time, and had one of her children had a temperature that was, I think it was 1 point away from being too high. They would have gotten kicked out of that Airbnb. She ended up staying at the Airbnb for the next 3 weeks. After having stayed at that Airbnb for 3 weeks, then she had to sign the documentations for the apartment that she was moving into, and she just barely got in. Right timing, right time. Just as Passover was hitting. And for some of y'all, before you understand this, I'm actually recording this a few days before Passover. Actually, Passover starts tomorrow. Okay? So I need for you to understand with a clarity that God's going to have you be going through some stuff, and some of this stuff is going to happen while you're with your spouse. Now, they may have clout, they may have ability, and in some cases, I did a video where I talked about this, some of your spouses have been pulled all the way down because God had to fully humble those people, and they're going to have to rebuild with you, okay? Their status has been pulled down, everything been pulled down. Now, in some cases, they have not been, where their public status may have stayed exactly where it is, but their private life completely tore apart. And you're going to be helping them rebuild from that particular point in time. But y'all going to have to go through a journey where y'all going to be moving around. And if any of y'all have seen my review for the film Twilight, Breaking Dawn, Part 1 and 2, I actually am going to go back and look at that myself because I need a refresher. I talk about the story of Mary and Joseph. Some of you, because of the fact that you and a Mary and Joseph, what you are carrying is so imperative that God's going to have you moving around like Mary and Joseph. The whole time she was pregnant, they were not stable. I told you about a YouTuber that I used to follow. Her name is Shameless Maya Washington. Go watch her story of her pregnancy. Exactly what I'm talking about. Because her and she got married. They were jumping all over the place. They were in New Mexico, Canada, over here in this place, over here in that place. Ended up moving to Sweden. But look at how much they had to move. And all this was happening while she was pregnant. They didn't get stable until she was towards the end of her pregnancy, meaning that last 2 to 3 months. Some of y'all, you and your spouse are going to be moving around like that, and you're going to get pregnant during that time frame. I need you to prepare yourself because that's going to be your move around. And you're going to have to keep moving until Mary and Joseph, until you give birth to them kids, children, one child, whatever it is. So go look at that. That playlist is by itself. So you can watch the Breaking Dawn playlist because there's a lot of instructions in that. But I hope this blessed you. I think I covered everything because lastly, I'm going to say about the spirit mapping. You're going to want to go through each and every one of those questions. Why? Because there's certain things about totems. There's certain things about spiritual things that go on in the land, the territory. Were Indians there? What was there? What was the spiritual dedication to dead people? All that kind of stuff. Some of y'all come from Santeria. Some of y'all come from Mexican spirits, because you know how they used to dedicate the cemetery and have that whatever that Spanish Day is. All that spiritual stuff that's on the land, and you moving into that land. So you think that stuff ain't gonna get kicked up when you come in there? There are ministers I used to follow, used to deal with all that kind of stuff. Coming into cities where the spirits would literally attack them the second they walked into the city, get sick as a dog, and all this kind of stuff. I'm not trying to scare you. You just need to pray and let them know you coming. In some of them cases, you don't need to let them know you coming. You just need to pray and get an ordinance. That's why I tell you, go look up the spirit map. Because you need to answer those questions for yourself. So that you know what you're walking into for the city God has told you to move into. So that you know what you're spiritually fighting. So you know how to pray. So that you can get stable where God's told you. And you ain't sitting up there jumping here, there, and other places. So I hope this blessed you. Until next time. Bye-bye.